If you struggle to come up with YouTube ideas, or you have ideas and you just overthink the entire process and you're not sure which idea you should make a video about, I'm gonna walk you through the exact strategy that I've used to generate over 100 million long-form YouTube views over the past 3 years. Now, if this is the first time you're coming across my content or seeing my face, just know that I've been creating content for over a decade. I've created thousands of videos, collaborated with many of the top creators in the fitness niche today, and I've learned best practices directly from YouTube. So just know that everything I'm about to share with you is based on real experience. I want to cut through the noise because everybody's got some master tactics and master plan to get you a bajillion views and big promises. But what I'm going to show you over here on my computer is the actual system I've used to generate over 100 million views in the last 3 years. No fluff, no gimmicks, no hyper edits, just real and honest advice. Let's get into it. Now, the first part of the strategy is to think about what type of video you are creating. And if we zoom out and think about YouTube as a platform, right? We look at it as a 30,000 foot view and think about of all the types of videos that can be created, it really gets boiled down into 2 types of videos. We have educational or information-based videos. These could be documentaries, these could be talking head videos, how-to videos, mistake videos, but it's educational videos. And then we have the other side, which is entertainment videos. And these are concept-based videos, vlogs, right? These high effort, big budget production, but it's also just like people experimenting things with themselves, right? The outdoor boys and him just living out in the bush that doesn't have a big production, but yet he's doing millions of views. And the reason it's important to decide what type of video you're going to create and categorize these is because the way you make money from either of these videos is different. And this is something that not enough creators think about. They're just like, oh, I want to create content that I want to make, but I will tell you from experience that YouTube is a very labor-intensive hobby if it doesn't pay you any money. So you got to decide, how do you plan to make money from YouTube? And if you're making educational content, the goal is typically to convert viewers into buyers, to show people that you are an authority, that you know what you're talking about. This talking head video, this channel that I'm making is focused on education, teaching you the how-to so that you can understand my process and hopefully decide whether or not I'm the right fit for you. That's the purpose of educational content. There's literally no other reason to make educational content. And if you're trying to make entertainment videos and you're trying to come up with these grandiose concepts, then your goal is typically to chase AdSense revenue, or it's to chase brand sponsorships, which isn't a bad thing. And people often will ask me, well, can't I convert these large viewers into buyers if I get millions of views and just do these concepts? Sometimes, but I'll tell you from experience, my second channel, my entertainment channel, where I focus on doing these grandiose concepts, don't get me any leads for my video production business. You know why? Because I'm just focused on telling stories. I'm not showing that I know how to be a coach or that I know how to get views or that I'm talking about literally myself. I'm just focused on the concept. So the first part of this process is just really to decide, how do you plan to make money from YouTube? Now, we can start to zoom in to one or the other. And I'm going to go through both of these scenarios, and depending on what your goal is, I'll have timestamps in this video so you can choose the educational side or the entertainment side. But once we move through this and get into the proven format and your twist, it's generally the same for both of these, but the beginning part of this video really, or the formulas for these videos are a little bit different. So I created this formula that I call the high converting formula. And the goal is to maximize conversions, right? Of course, you want to get views, but again, if you're a coach trying to sell something off the back end, you want to maximize conversions. So the first part of this formula is the viewer's pain point or the idea. And I bet you clicked on this video hoping that I would just give you some sort of tool that you could go on YouTube and find some outlier scores and be like, oh, this is a viral idea. I'm just going to copy that idea and boom, I'm going to get 1 million views. But the educational creators that I've had the most success with are the ones who focused on just solving problems, because I understand you want the views, right? You just want to be able to find out the thing and get the views, but I can promise you that views don't equal conversions. And I've learned this the hard way. I've pitched ideas that have hundreds of thousands of views, but booked 0 calls. And I'll even show you an example of that. So views fill the ego, but conversions build the business. So the first part of this formula is really just to focus on understanding who you are creating content for. Who are the clients that you actually help? What is their name? What is their job? What are their real frustrations? Typically it's belly fat, but like, what are the real roadblocks? Like, what are the scenarios that these people are going through that is actually holding them back from getting to the desired outcome, and why they hire you? And I can promise that if you just focus on content that's around solving problems, it's gonna build your business faster than going on and chasing trends and wasting all this time creating viral videos. Like, there's so many creators like Ed Lawrence, James Smith, who ditched large YouTube accounts and created new ones that are just talking head, that are just focused on solving problems, that get a quarter of the views because that builds their business. So the first part of this process is just to start a timer for 10 minutes, or sorry, not 10 minutes, 2 minutes, and just write out as many problems that you can think of. Don't use ChatGPT, don't look on the internet, just write out all of the problems that you hear about on an everyday basis, that you hear on coaching calls, that you hear on qualifying calls. Like, what are all of the problems that you can create content around? And then later, I'll show you how to package them and maybe how to title them, or maybe how to create a thumbnail that's gonna help you maximize the views, but it all starts with the pain point. So go ahead, pause this video, and write out as many problems as you can. The next part of this is we're gonna do a little bit of research, and we're gonna find what is working, and then we're gonna figure out how we can make it yours. What is your value proposition? Because I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of creators make is they see a million view video and they're like, I'm gonna create that. It worked for this guy, I'm gonna create it. And that might work sometimes, but most of the time it doesn't. And the reality is that's because a huge part of winning on YouTube is being chosen next. And I don't see enough people talking about this. It's like, just come up with the biggest, grandest idea that you come up with. But if we want to leverage what's already working, and the reality is YouTube already has an ecosystem, and if you're a smaller creator and you don't have 1 million subscribers, then you're trying to be chosen next. They've already watched their favorite creator talk about this topic, and they're looking for another unique angle that might speak a little more clearly to them. That's why you got to differentiate your content from the large creators slightly. You want to leverage what's working, but make it different enough to earn the click. And I'll explain how to do that in a minute. But let's dive into the viewer's pain points. So now you have all these ideas, okay? You have all these pain points, you have these problems that you hear about on an everyday basis. And now I want to help you filter through some of these problems, because the reality is the way that problem videos get clicked comes down to urgency. How painful or interesting is that topic or that problem? And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. We have attention level problems and we have decision level problems. And I want you to think about it like this, okay? Imagine you're bleeding from the neck. You need to stop that bleeding or else you're going to die. Versus on the other side, you stub your toe and it hurts. You might think about it. You might go get it checked out if it gets worse, but it doesn't require immediate action. So now I want you to look at the problems that you just wrote out. And I want you to start numbering them, from 1 being the most painful and 10 being interesting and something that people complain about, like, oh, should I work out 4 days a week or 5 days a week? We both know that's not going to change anything for most people, right? That's not the desired outcome. That's not the thing keeping them up at night. It's like, oh, should I work out 4 days a week or 5 days a week? It's no, how do I get rid of this stubborn belly fat? Why am I skinny fat? Why are my arms skinny in a t-shirt? Like, these are the things that are going to require somebody to act. And there's an interesting resource out there called Answer the Public, where you can just type in a keyword like belly fat, and it will give you a ton of keywords that people are actually searching, like how to lose X, and it will give you like exact things, phrases that people are typing into Google, ChatGPT, YouTube, everything. And it's a great way to start thinking about what a title could be, and we're gonna validate that later with the proven format section. But this whole part of the process is just to try to think about severity of problems. What's going to be a little bit interesting and what's going to be an actual painful problem that somebody needs to solve, pull out their credit card and hire you. And now let me give you some examples here. This video that I suggested for Mario to create over a year ago, well, 7 months ago, we started talking about it sooner than that, was about creatine. And at the time, last year, if you remember, if you're in the fitness space, you knew this, there was a bunch of studies coming out that if you megadose creatine, you would start to see cognitive benefits. That if you took 20 grams versus the traditional 5 grams, it would seep into your bloodstream. And like one of the biggest things that it would help with is like it would negate sleep deprivation. So it was a booming topic. Everybody was talking about it. So of course, we jumped on the trend and we made a video about it. And this video has 600,000 views. But the reality is it didn't convert views into buyers. We didn't get any coaching calls booked from this video because it was an attention level problem, right? It was just something that was interesting and informative. We gave the research. It was still informational. It was still educational, right? It wasn't actually like, here's day 1, here's day 2, here's day 3. We talked about the science, and just Mario had been taking it for 6 days. And I'm going to get deeper into how we came up with this title later. But what I'm trying to say here is the same thing as this. Is like, how much should the average man bench press? It's an interesting topic, but it doesn't convert viewers into buyers. And if you're a coach making educational content, of course you want the views, right? Top of funnel. You could still make these videos. I'm not saying never make these videos. What I'm trying to explain is that these videos didn't result in calls being booked. Whereas you look at these videos, these are decision level problems. They focus on a specific pain point and they have an exact outcome. How long to get rid of skinny fat? So let's talk about this a little bit deeper. And I'm just hammering this in because I just want you to really understand what I'm talking about when I'm saying decision level problems. When you think of skinny fat, this is something people are reminded of every time they take their shirt off, anytime they're at the beach, anytime they're around their kids. Like they were reminded constantly. They're sitting down, they feel their fat kind of scrunching over. They were reminded of it constantly. Versus something like creatine or how much the average person should bench, it's just something to think about sometimes. When they see a creatine bottle or they're buying their supplements and they're like, oh, should I take this or not? But it doesn't fix the problem that's keeping them up at night, that's making them self-conscious. And the whole part of this part of the formula is just to think about the more painful the problem, the more likely they are to hire you for your services and convert viewers into buyers, which is the entire goal with educational content. So now let's talk about entertainment videos. And again, I have another formula here, and we're gonna call this the viral view formula, because if you're making entertainment videos or vlog videos, your entire goal is to maximize views, to chase AdSense or brand sponsorships. It's not to educate or explain exactly what's happening. And I think this is a big mistake that a lot of people make with entertaining content. They just try to like over explain things. It's just, the reality is what I've seen work is you just want to focus on the process, making it fun and relatable. And this is how I was able to monetize my channel with one video. The first video that I ever put out on a brand new YouTube channel got 100,000 views. Then I followed it up with 2 other videos, and I've done over 250,000 views with 3 videos on a brand new channel. And the reason is because I went entertainment. I focused and leaned in on the problems and the story I was telling, and not necessarily actually about my life. And I think this is a big mistake that people make with entertainment videos, is they try to show their lives too much. You just need to focus on the problem or the concept that you are filming. And your life could be the backdrop, but it's not necessarily about your life. Unless you're doing like a vlog, but even that, like people like Mike Thurston, he's vlogging his life, but he's doing something so extreme. He's doing something super luxury or like really broad, really big. And that's why people are interested. It's not necessarily that they're actually interested in his life. And of course, he's been doing it for so long that he probably has some true fans. But if you're a smaller creator, people don't care about your actual life. And one other creator I want to quickly talk about is Sam Sulek, right? The classic set up your camera on a tripod and this is going to get you millions of views. And I'm going to tell you something about Sam Sulek. The only reason why that format works for him is because he's being compared to Arnold and he's being talked about at every bodybuilding forum. And the hype to see him compete for the first time was like astronomical. People were like, he's the next Arnold. He's the next Chris Bumstead. But if you're just like a regular, ordinary person like me, that is not going to work for you. And I'm telling you this from experience. I filmed my workouts for years. Between 2016 and 2020, I created over 50 YouTube videos, hired videographers because I thought better cinematics or whatever. Like I did the tripod stuff, I did all these things, film my workouts, and it got hundreds of views. My most viewed video was 193 views, and I don't want you to suffer like I did. So filming your workouts or just documenting your everyday life isn't interesting enough. If you're going to go the entertainment route, it has to be interesting, grandiose concepts. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to break world records or be somebody famous. But I'm going to show you some examples that I've done on how you could just take something that's somewhat ordinary and one-up it or make it more interesting and tell a story. The thing about entertainment stuff is there needs to be something that you're chasing. There needs to be an outcome that the desire at the end of the video that keeps people wanting to stick around and see what happens. So let's dive into the formula a little bit. First, we have intriguing premise. And similar to the education, it all starts with the idea. Right? We just got to think about like, what is the most interesting thing that we can do or high effort thing that we can do that would challenge ourselves? And the thing about entertainment style videos is like, there's a lot of luck because educational videos, you just focus on the problems that you hear about and that you're solving every single day. Like if you're a coach, you just focus on the problems that you're solving every day. But what I've noticed with entertainment content is you want to stick within the niches of fitness. And what I mean by that is that if you are a runner, stick to making concepts around running for 30 days, 90 days, trying different runners' routines, diets for runners. And if you're in a CrossFit, same thing. If you're in a strongman, same thing. If you're into bodybuilding, same thing. Because generally speaking, when you want a loyal audience to keep showing up and keep watching your content, typically they exercise one certain way. There's very few people that do everything and that are interested in everything. You know, you might be because you're like a fitness coach or a fitness professional and you might find a lot of different things interesting. But for most people, they're very singular in the way that they train or their beliefs or anything like that. So if you're coming up with ideas, they should be focused niche specific early on when you're starting out, specifically if you're a smaller creator. If you have less than 100,000 subscribers, you should probably stick to one lane and slowly branch out, slowly try to create different concepts. So the first part of this formula is I just want you to write out as many ideas as you can. Go ahead, pause this video, and just write out all of the different challenges that you think you could accomplish that would be hard to the average person, that you could make interesting, that you could have some sort of goal that would push you to your limits and you could lean into the storyline, make it fun, make it interesting. And the goal here is to not judge the ideas. Later on, I'll show you how to package them and how to put them in a way that works based on titles and thumbnails that are working. But this part of the process, as much as you want me to give you some formula to go on the internet and find viral videos that are, and just recreate other things, you got to have fun with it. You got to do things that you actually enjoy because it's the only way you're going to have longevity in this game. And YouTube is a longevity game. So go ahead, pause this video for 2 minutes and just write out all the different ideas, all the different challenges that you think you could do that would push you to your limits. And once you've done that, the next part is the same as educational. We're just going to go and look what is working, proven formats. How are people titling, coming up with thumbnails, and we're going to figure out how we could package this and what the actual framework of this video is going to be based on what's already working. And then same, how can you make it personal? How can you make it yours, right? What can you add to this that's going to stand out from the other videos? It's not about copying. It's about learning what's working and leveraging it enough to make your own. So now I want to talk about the two different types of entertainment style videos that I've seen work. Of course, there might be some more, but the reality is I've broken this down to like concept-based videos or entertainment style videos. It comes down to like how curious are people about that topic or interested in that thing that you are doing, right? You need to figure out what that sample size actually is. And when you type it in on YouTube, like how many people are actually watching this idea? And the two different types of entertainment style videos that I've seen work are challenge-based concepts where you do something for a certain period of time and you see what happens, right? You explore the problems, right? I think a lot of people, when they're going through this, they like to skip over the problems and pretend like they're like a super athlete and they never made any mistakes. But that's what makes it relatable. Both my videos, I leaned in to how much it sucked. And some people will comment, oh man, you're just a complainer. But the fact is those videos have hundreds of thousands of views because people could see themselves in the concept. I made it relatable. And the next part, The next type of video is like investigation-based videos. You're finding the truth. You're exploring something. You're bringing information to light, something unique that they haven't heard before, or you're just seeing, like, does this apply to the average person? So now I want you to look at the list of ideas that you've just written out, and I want you to categorize them. Which one of these are a challenge-based concept, and which one of these are a truth-finding concept? And another way for me to boil this down to maybe help you understand a little bit more is that my running video, I ran 10 kilometers every day for 30 days to see if that was enough preparation to beat my best ever 10K time 10 years later. There was a lot of 10s in there. But at the end of that video, there was like a clear goal that somebody would stick around to watch to the end. It's like, did I beat my best ever 10K or did I not? And there's like, the challenge is like, boom, I did it. Versus like the David Goggins video that I'll show you in a minute was I investigated his morning routine to see whether or not it's something that the average person can sustain, or do you have to be David Goggins to live that type of lifestyle? And it was more just like me finding the truth, me living his lifestyle, and it was very much heavily based around David Goggins, and I was just the guy to go through it. So hopefully this starts to paint the picture and contrast the difference between these two types of concepts so you could fully decide which type of video you're actually going to create. And now I want to give you some ideas based on videos that I've actually filmed, edited, produced, did everything for, and explain how I came up with them. Last year, I had somebody reach out to me about filming a documentary of him going and running an ultra marathon. It's called the Moab 240. Maybe you've heard about it, maybe you haven't, but it's probably the most talked about ultra marathon in the world because David Goggins has talked about it in his books, and it's just one of the most popular ultra marathons that you could run. So he wanted to create a documentary about him going and doing this thing, and rather than just filming, hey, this is what I did, this is what this is the challenges that I overcame, I thought about how can we make it more interesting or tie it into a bigger, grander topic. And with this one, David Goggins happened to actually be running it, but even if he didn't, I would probably still find a way to leverage David Goggins because I would have said I ran the race that David Goggins ran, 240-mile ultra marathon or something along the lines of that, because the reality is like we're trying to leverage something more interesting than the actual race itself to get to maximize virality. But David Goggins actually happened to be here running this race, and I snagged an interview with him. We made the concept about him. And what was authentic to Brady in this video was that what inspired him to start doing hard things, like 3 years ago, he wasn't running ultra marathons. Like he was just an ordinary dude working out 3 days a week, but wasn't doing anything crazy. But he did 75 hard, and he heard about this race from David Goggins, because one of the first books that he read was David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, and never finished. So we made this whole concept around David Goggins, and I like to show this example because this video has 423,000 views, and his YouTube channel had less than 1,000 subscribers. It now has over 3,000 subscribers, but this just shows the possibility that if you just think of a grandiose, interesting idea, that it can maximize views and do really well. Next up is my running challenge, right? Seeing what happens is I ran 10K every day for 30 days. Here's what I did to my body. I showcased what running 10K every day does to your body. My body broke down. I couldn't run every single day, and I made it a whole concept. And this video monetized my channel on a brand new channel. I had 100,000 views. Next up, leveraged my interview with Goggins to make my own video, and I investigated his morning routine. So now, again, it's not necessarily about me doing the running, but I'm finding the truth of this is how David Goggins lives his life. Is this practical for an ordinary, everyday person like you and me? And then finally, finding the truth, another broad-based question. And these ones are sometimes these are hard to come up with these broad-based questions and know what's going to work really well. But how many fourth grade girls does it take to beat the world's strongest man in a tug of war? Mitchell and I had no idea that this video was going to blow up. And it turned out that was a super viral video that just happened to blow up because it was just an interesting idea. Like, how many girls does it take to beat the world's strongest man in a tug of war? If you're watching this, you're probably wondering, I wonder how many girls it takes to beat the world's strongest man. It's just a random question. Other types of videos are, again, like this broad-based question. How much should the average man bench? It's just a broad question, but this one's concept-based and this one's information-based. And that is the first part of the process. Just brainstorming different types of ideas, not judging your idea, but just thinking about what could be. What do you think could be interesting? Or what is the most painful problem that you can solve? And your video hinges around this. And I would encourage you to spend more time than you think you should and brainstorm as many different ideas as you can. You can never have too many ideas. And a lot of the creators that I work with will hop on hour calls once a week and just talk about ideas. Not enough people spend more time thinking ideas. They think that they just magically come up with one really good idea and that's the holy grail. And sometimes that happens and you get really lucky. But this is the process that I've seen over years of doing this. That you just got to come up with hundreds of ideas and then start to filter them down with what I'm going to show you next. But before we move on, I want to ask you a quick question. How serious are you about actually growing your YouTube channel? And I'm not talking about just watching a couple of videos, getting a couple of tactics, and maybe finding success. I'm talking about you're finally ready to reap the rewards of the time, money, and effort that you've been putting into these videos that aren't finding success. Because I'm about to launch the Fitness Creator Academy, where I'm going to help fitness creators like yourself blow up and expand their reach and finally get the results that they are hoping for. Based on experience, I've been doing this for over a decade. I've done over 100 million views in the fitness space over the past 3 years. Monetized several small channels, monetized my own channel with one video, learned the best practices from YouTube Canada. I lived fitness. I was a personal trainer for 5 years, created over 50 YouTube videos in a span of 4 years, hired 4 different videographers, and didn't find success because I didn't know what I was doing. And I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to have to go through years of pain and suffering like I did to start finding success on YouTube. So go ahead, fill out the link in that description, and let's hop on a free strategy call. And now for the part of the process that you have been waiting for, the highly anticipated. Let's go to YouTube, figure out what's getting a bajillion views, and leverage it for yourself. So I'm actually gonna combine the last 2 steps in the formula of proven format and your twist. And it will all make sense in a moment because this research part is tedious, yes, but it's going to help you filter out what ideas are not worth pursuing and which ones have the highest leverage. So I got a few things here. We're going to use my David Goggins morning routine video, which has 140,000 views at the time of recording this, with 2,500 subscribers, 2,500 subscribers. I was able to get 140,000 views. And that's because this is the exact research process that I used to come up with my title, my thumbnail, and just generally speaking, my angle and my idea for the overall content that I was going to be filming. And this is part of the process that you want to do before you film anything. A lot of people, they will think of their title and thumbnail after they record a video, but I can't stress enough that you want to have a general idea of what you're going to do before, because that's how you should start your video, and that's how you're going to have a general understanding of what is the general angle for the video. So the first part of this process is to literally take your idea or take your problem and type it directly into the YouTube search bar, because this is going to now start giving you suggestions on topics that are trending or that are highly searched, or what YouTube thinks you might click on. So this is really great stuff just to start to see what is trending. They don't know me, David Goggins. They don't know me, son, right? Like it's just like a tagline that Goggins says, but that's highly searched. And if you could incorporate that into your videos or find ways to use that in the title or the thumbnail, then you know that those are high leverage key terms or words that could be used. This could be stuff that you use in your YouTube description, all different types of tactics and tricks now to start working or using this stuff that's working to your favor in the YouTube algorithm. So first, just go to YouTube and type it in and see what gets suggested. Then over here, you want to start using these filter tabs up here where you can start to filter all-time views for this topic. And for me, I knew I wanted to do David Goggins' workout because, again, I do this for a living, so I had an inclination that David Goggins' workouts were blowing up, and I had seen this video. I worked out like David Goggins for 100 days. I had seen this video, 14 million views. At the time, he didn't have 300,000 subscribers. When this video really started blowing up, he had, I think like 20 or 30,000 subscribers, and then this video like really changed his life. So this just shows you the opportunity that if you nail it, it can really blow up. But so for those reasons, I knew that David Goggins was a highly trending workout, but I didn't know exactly what angle that I wanted to take. So I went to YouTube and I started screenshotting videos that had this little red button on here, or this thing. It's called a multiplier score. And this is from a Google Chrome extension called VidIQ. And what this does is it gives you something called an outlier score that will tell you how well that video is performing based on the channel average. So not all-time views on this topic, but based on how that video or it has performed compared to how all the other videos are performing recently on that channel. And as you can see, 14 million views on this guy's YouTube channel was a huge outlier, 100x outlier for this guy. But for a larger creator who has 2.5 million subscribers, 5.3 million views, this is only a 4.6x multiplier. Now, I'm not saying that that's not a good thing, but what you're seeing here is that this video is starting to work for smaller creators, and sometimes better for smaller creators than it is for the larger creators. And what you want to start doing is you just want to start screenshotting and seeing what videos are blowing up. Now, this one doesn't have a multiplier score, but I also watched this video, which I don't know why it doesn't have a multiplier score, because this has 40,000 subscribers, 1.3 million views. So you can imagine that's going to be a 100x multiplier as well. But this video really blew up this guy's channel as well. So as you're starting to see here, this topic of David Goggins' workout is starting to blow up for smaller channels, 116,000 views with 2.9 thousand subscribers, right? So it's working for the large creators, 1 million views for somebody who has 628,000 subscribers, and this guy who has 2.5 million subscribers, but it's also working for smaller creators. And that's kind of the real key here. You want to start finding videos that have worked really well, like 2 or 3 large creators, but then 2 or 3 smaller creators. And then David Goggins, this one was just a huge outlier, which I knew. I was super confident in this idea that this was going to go well for me because of just how many small channels this worked for. This video or this channel has 284,000 subscribers, 155,000 views, but this one has 3,000 subscribers, 18,000 views. This guy has 10,000 subscribers and 325,000 views. This person has 10 million subscribers and 538,000 views. But look at 34,000 subscribers, 300,000 views. So you're starting to see here that just this is working really well for small channels. 220K views for a channel has 3,000 subscribers. So now you're starting to see there's this trend of what is working for large creators and small creators. One, all-time views, like massive millions of views. But then I also filter it out by the past year, because often what worked 5 or 10 years ago doesn't necessarily work today, but there will be some overlap. For instance, 3 years ago, I trained like David Goggins for 24 hours. People are still using that general framework of doing things for 24 hours. Like I survived his daily routine or whatever. So you're starting to see this overlap between what worked before and what's working now. But the ultimate thing here is you just want to start to find trends. Like what is very consistent? And as you can see here, I survived David Goggins' morning routine. I tried living like David Goggins for a week. I survived David Goggins' morning routine. So you're starting to see this morning routine constantly come up. And that's why I was like, well, I'm going to do his morning routine. But here's the real caveat, right? If I were just to copy another one where I survived or I tried David Goggins' morning routine, I could have ended up like this guy. I tried David Goggins' morning routine, 6K views. It's a 0.4x multiplier because he's just copying what all of these other people are doing. He even has a very similar thumbnail, like dark, 12 miles. Like they just all kind of look the same. And the goal of being picked on YouTube, or the real opportunity to get chosen on YouTube, is to be similar enough to what's working, but different enough to earn the click. So now we start to talk about the second part of this, which is your twist. How do you take something that's working and make it your own? And you're seeing a lot of these people, like I survived David Goggins' pre-Navy SEAL daily routine. I tested David Goggins' 40% rule. I worked out like David Goggins for 30 days. I tried David Goggins. So you're seeing like all these different variations of the same thing. And you got to think about, well, how can I stand out? Now, for me personally, I investigated David Goggins' morning routine. And the reason for that, why I made this an option, was because what works on YouTube in other niches will tend to work in your niche as well if it's proven across multiple niches. So as you can see here, an outside topic that was working. Now, if you're newer to YouTube and you're just kind of getting into this, you might not have all these outside ideas yet. But you want to start paying attention to trends. Now, I literally scroll YouTube like I scroll social media, and I screenshot things. Like, I'm a lunatic. Like, I have mood boards that are just like outlier videos that are like performing well, that will just give me ideas of how I could potentially package mine a little bit differently. So I went with the I investigated because I investigated the world's unhealthiest jobs. I investigated the the moon thing. I investigated Afghanistan under the Taliban, the murder of Cap. Like, there's all these different, I investigated in different niches. So I actually took out 3 different titles. One was really abstract, just an idea that I had that I thought maybe could work, because what was unique to my video was that I actually had an interview with David Goggins. I had met him a few weeks earlier before I tried this, when I was filming a documentary of somebody running 240 miles. He was there. I met him at the finish line, and I asked him in an interview, and I leveraged that in my video, which is why I decided to include him in my thumbnail. Now, you look at these other creators like Brownie, he didn't have him in the thumbnail. Mike Isertel, he was talking about him, but he wasn't in the actual video. Some of these guys will leverage a popular face in their thumbnail to leverage views. But if you want to avoid clickbaiting, then you want to try to make it as authentic as possible, which is why, like, for these guys up here, it probably worked really well for them because it was just them going out and doing this at 3 a.m. So what I notice here is 3 a.m. was an outlier. Like this time, having the time in the thumbnail helped videos perform well. So what did I do? I have the time in my thumbnail, the actual time that I woke up. Then I have David Goggins in my thumbnail because I actually had an interview with him, and I was teasing that to the end of the video. But I introduced that at the beginning of the video, that I interviewed David Goggins, and you got to stick around to the end of the video to hear what he told me in this interview. So now you're starting to see how this is all coming together. And hopefully I'm not like complicating this more than it needs to be. But this is the process. This is the real process that I go through. Raw, unfiltered, uncut. I'm just showing you exactly what it is that I did. So the cool thing about YouTube is that you can actually split test titles and thumbnails. Now, I just wanted to go with this thumbnail because I just thought that it was going to perform really well. Doing this for a long time, I just had an intuition that this was going to be a good thumbnail. And I split tested different titles because I wasn't 100% sure. I was like, could copying what worked do well for me? And as you can see, this is actually the lowest percentage of watch time. How interesting is that? This whole time I've been telling you not to just copy what other people are doing. And in this actual data from YouTube, it told me that this gave me the least the least amount of performance, the worst performance out of all of my 3 options. And the best one was one that nobody had done before. Nobody had done this, but it was a proven outlier in other niches. So this is the process that I go through in order to validate an idea. It all starts with your idea and your problem that you're trying to solve. Then you take it to YouTube, you type it in, you see what's working, and then you figure out how you can make it yours, how you can make it stand out and compete so that you can be chosen next. And that is the process, raw and real. Can't make it any more simpler or any more authentic or show you anything more, because this is exactly what I do. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully this gives you an idea of what it takes to succeed on YouTube so that you can finally start to get the success that you deserve on YouTube. So go ahead, hit that like button, drop me a comment, tell me what was the most valuable piece of information in this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.